You need to understand how bad this is right now. HUD counted about 770,000 people homeless on a single night in 2024, an 18% jump in 1 year, and children were the fastest-growing group, up 33%. And while that's happening, the Census Bureau says child poverty more than doubled when the temporary supports ended, jumping from 5.2% 2021 to 12.4% 2022, which is basically a policy switch, flipping millions of kids from barely okay to we're not eating tonight. Add this on top. Surveys show around 62% of Americans say they're living paycheck to paycheck, and more than a third can't cover a surprise $400 expense with cash, meaning one flat tire, one prescription, one school fee, and you're instantly negotiating with overdraft fees and credit card APRs like your life depends on it. Because it does. So if you felt the ground slipping under you, I'm telling you straight, that's not personal failure. That's national freefall. America's new working class lives in motels, minivans, and storage units. You want to know what it looks like when an empire falls? It looks like families living in weekly motels, using coolers as refrigerators, and hiding their kids so CPS doesn't take them away. It looks like a line of cars outside a Planet Fitness parking lot at 2 a.m. where people are waiting their turn to use the shower. It's the teacher who grades papers in her sedan because rent hit $2,200 and she got evicted mid-semester. And if you think that's rare, here's the truth. Over 3 million Americans are currently living in some form of invisible housing, a car, a motel, a friend's couch, or even storage units. That's not hyperbole. HUD's own homeless point-in-time count in 2025 showed a 12% increase in homelessness just in the last year, the largest spike since they started counting. But the real number is worse, because what they don't count is the working poor in hiding, the DoorDash drivers sleeping in Walmarts, the Lyft drivers brushing their teeth in gas station bathrooms, the gig workers who used to be your neighbor, and now pray their car doesn't get repossessed because that's both their job and their home. 1 in 5 Americans can't afford housing in their own city. And in places like Phoenix, Las Vegas, and Austin, rent has outpaced wage growth by over 200% since the pandemic. There are TikToks right now teaching people how to stealth camp in Subarus. You've got whole Reddit threads dedicated to which motel chains don't ask for ID. Because people aren't dropping out of society, they're being priced out. One emergency, a blown transmission, a sick kid, one bad week at work, and that middle-class life you worked your whole damn life for, gone. Just like that. And no, you can't just get a better job. Not when the cost of daycare is more than your rent. Not when your credit score tanks from a single missed bill. Not when background checks flag you as a risk for that eviction you didn't cause. You want to see a collapse in real time? Look outside. This is it. And we're all standing in it, pretending it's fine. Food stamps are being cut while grocery bills break records. Let me ask you something. How the hell are people supposed to survive when the cost of eggs is up 42% since 2020? But SNAP benefits are being slashed across the board. This isn't a hypothetical. This is what's happening right now. In March 2023, over 30 million Americans saw their food stamp benefits drop by an average of $90 per month, and in some cases up to $250. That's a week of groceries. Gone. And guess what? Grocery inflation didn't stop. In 2024, the price of ground beef hit an all-time high at $5.50 per pound. Milk is over $4 a gallon in many urban areas. Fresh fruit and vegetables? Out of reach for the average family. So now we have a country where people are literally stealing baby formula from Walgreens and getting charged with felonies for it. We have moms on Facebook Marketplace trading unopened diapers for pasta. A recent USDA report found that over 44 million Americans lived in food-insecure households in 2023. That's the highest number in modern American history, higher than during the Great Recession. And the kicker? This isn't happening because we don't have food. America throws away 30 to 40% of its food supply every year. It's happening because we've created a system where the poor are punished for being poor. And if you try to get help, be ready to prove you're poor enough. Then wait, then reapply, and if you earn even $1 over the threshold, you're cut off. There are senior citizens skipping meals so they can afford their insulin. There are veterans going to food banks with their discharge papers in hand, embarrassed to even ask. The people I'm talking about aren't lazy. They aren't gaming the system. They're Americans. Just like you. But we've created an economy where you can work full-time, be a single parent, have zero debt, and still not qualify for help. Because you make $18 an hour instead of $15. We are not just falling into poverty. We are being pushed into it, and the government is pulling the safety net out from under us, while prices skyrocket. That's not just a crisis. That's sabotage. Middle-class America is now a mirage with a 22% interest rate. You ever look at your credit card statement and just want to scream? You're not alone. As of October 2025, the average interest rate on credit cards in America hit 22.77%. That's not just high, that's predatory. And yet, 61% of Americans now carry a balance month to month. Why? Because wages didn't keep up with inflation. Because you needed groceries and the car broke down. Because your kid needed school supplies and there was no other option. And now the average household has over $7,300 in credit card debt. That's not luxury spending. That's survival debt. But here's the real kicker. While the average APR climbs past 22%, your bank is paying you what? 0.02% in your savings account? Welcome to the upside down. The American middle class is being eaten alive, one compounding interest charge at a time. You can work 60 hours a week, have no major medical emergencies, and still watch your finances slowly bleed out month after month. People are putting rent on credit cards, groceries, daycare. And with the cost of living up nearly 20% since 2021, it's only going to get worse. Nearly 1 in 4 Americans is now using buy now, pay later apps just to afford fast food. Not a new couch, not a TV, Taco Bell. When people start financing their lunch, it's not an inconvenience, it's a collapse. And when interest rates finally do come down, the damage will already be done. Millions will have already defaulted, declared bankruptcy, or been swallowed by debt collection lawsuits. We're not building wealth, we're building landmines. And most people don't even see them until it's too late. So if you're feeling like you're running on a treadmill that only speeds up, that's not in your head. That's the system. And it was designed to make you tired. Because tired people don't fight back. They just pay the minimum and hope next month is better. But it never is. Medical debt is now the #1 reason Americans skip treatment. So here's something that'll make your blood boil. The #1 reason Americans skip going to the doctor right now isn't because they don't have time. It's because they're scared of the bill. In 2025, over 43% of adults in the U.S. said they avoided medical care in the past year due to cost. That's nearly half the country walking around with untreated illnesses, infections, chronic pain, not because they want to, but because they simply can't afford to get help. This is the richest country on earth, and we've got people using TikTok to crowdsource self-diagnosis. We've got cancer patients trying to negotiate payment plans from hospital beds. And here's the disgusting part. Medical debt is now the leading cause of personal bankruptcy in America, accounting for over 60% of all filings. And it's not because people didn't have insurance. Over 72% of those who filed had insurance. It just wasn't enough. High deductibles, surprise bills, out-of-network fees, $600 for a bandage, $1,400 for an ambulance ride, $90 for a bag of salt water with a fancy hospital sticker on it. You get out of the ER and into a debt cycle that never ends. People are selling their cars to pay off emergency surgery. People are choosing between insulin and rent. Do you know what it means to have to choose between breathing and having a roof over your head? That's not a choice. That's economic violence. And if you think it's not going to affect you, wait until your kid breaks their arm or your appendix bursts. The average cost of an appendectomy in the U.S.? Over $33,000. That's not health care. That's financial warfare. And once you're in that system, the collections, the court threats, the credit destruction, good luck ever getting out. Because being sick in America is now a punishable offense. And for millions, it's a life sentence. Child poverty in the U.S. has exploded in just 12 months, and nobody's talking about it. Let me hit you with a stat that should be on every front page in America. In just one single year from 2021 to 2022, child poverty in the U.S. more than doubled, going from 5.2% to 12.4%, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, and that number's gotten worse in 2023 and 2024. The reason? Simple. Congress let the enhanced child tax credit expire, slashing support for tens of millions of low-income families. And it's not like the cost of diapers, baby formula, or rent suddenly got cheaper. No, everything got more expensive, and the safety net vanished. Right now, there are over 9 million children in America growing up in poverty. That's not just a statistic, that's a future generation of Americans who are already malnourished, falling behind in school, missing vaccinations, and in some cases going to bed hungry. According to Feeding America, more than 1 in 5 households with children experienced food insecurity in 2023. And what's worse? School districts are quietly reporting spikes in kids showing up without clean clothes, without breakfast, and without stable housing. You've got elementary school teachers buying snacks with their own money because their students haven't eaten in 16 hours. And we're not talking rural Mississippi or some forgotten inner city. This is happening in middle-class suburbs in Texas, Colorado, Ohio, Nevada, where families making $50,000 a year suddenly can't afford rent, gas, groceries, and daycare all at once, so the kids get left behind. And if you think this is something they can just recover from, think again. Child poverty leaves permanent scars. Kids born into poverty are 7 times more likely to experience chronic illness, twice as likely to drop out of school, and far more likely to stay trapped in poverty for the rest of their lives. What's the plan? There is no plan. While Wall Street rakes in record profits, American kids are brushing their teeth in gas stations and sleeping in backseats. But sure, let's keep pretending we're the greatest country in the world while we watch our future go hungry. Homelessness is now a suburban problem, not just a city crisis. You know what's terrifying? The suburbs used to be a kind of escape hatch, a place people fled to avoid poverty, homelessness, and urban decay. But not anymore. In 2024, the fastest-growing homeless populations weren't in downtown LA or San Francisco. They were in the suburbs of Phoenix, Houston, Tampa, Nashville, and Charlotte. This is what no one's telling you. Homelessness is now exploding in Middle America, not just in coastal cities. You've got families living in tent camps behind strip malls. You've got school buses picking up kids from parking lots. There are reports of full-time Amazon warehouse employees living in their cars because they can't afford rent in the very neighborhoods they work in. The National Low-Income Housing Coalition says that there is not a single state in the U.S. where a person working full-time at minimum wage can afford a 2-bedroom apartment. Not one. And in places like Florida and Texas, states people fled to for affordability, rents have surged by 40 to 70% since 2020. So guess what's happening? Those people who moved to cheaper cities to escape poverty are now being hit with the exact same wave of displacement they thought they'd left behind. You've got evictions soaring in red states. Sheriff's deputies locking out single moms and dumping their belongings on sidewalks in 100-degree heat. And here's the most insane part. Most of these people have jobs. They're not addicts, they're not lazy, they're not criminals. They're Uber drivers, waitresses, mechanics, substitute teachers, the very people holding society together. But the American economy has been so warped that you can work full-time and still end up homeless. And now cities are criminalizing it. Anti-camping laws, vehicle residency bans, police raids on tent encampments. So the message is loud and clear. You can live in your car, but don't get caught. You can sleep in a tent, just don't be seen. In 2025, homelessness isn't just a personal crisis, it's legislated poverty. And suburban America, it's the next ground zero. Utility poverty. Americans are choosing between water, power, and rent. This one doesn't get headlines, but it should. Because what we're watching right now is the rise of something called utility poverty. And it means exactly what you think it means. Millions of Americans can no longer afford to keep the lights on. They can't afford heat. They can't afford water. And it's not just a few families. According to the National Energy Assistance Directors Association, over 20 million U.S. households were behind on utility bills in 2024. That's 1 in 6 American homes. Think about that, 1 in 6. You've got seniors choosing between oxygen machines and space heaters. You've got families using candles for light and boiling water on a stove for heat. In some states like Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arizona, electricity disconnection rates are up more than 40% since 2021. And winter is no longer the deadliest season. It's summer, because people living in trailers or parked cars are dying from heat stroke without air conditioning. You ever seen a grandma with COPD sitting in a 98-degree living room because she can't afford a $300 utility bill? That's America now. And these companies? They don't care. Energy monopolies are jacking up rates while making record profits. And if you're 1 day late on your bill, that's a late fee. 2 weeks late? A disconnection notice. A month late? They shut you off. And guess what? You can't get it turned back on unless you pay hundreds up front. And don't even get me started on water bills. Cities like Detroit and Jackson are shutting off water to homes with children. Imagine being a parent trying to send your kid to school without a shower, without clean dishes, without even being able to flush the damn toilet. This isn't just falling behind. This is what collapse looks like. Silent, invisible collapse. Because the people suffering aren't out protesting. They're too busy trying to stay alive. They're walking around with solar-powered lanterns and hauling jugs from gas station bathrooms. In America, in 2025, this is what it's come to. Millions are being evicted, and the system is built to make sure they never recover. Do you want to see what legalized cruelty looks like? Go sit in eviction court for a day. You'll see single moms standing in front of judges with toddlers on their hips, trying to explain why they were $200 short on rent because their job cut their hours. And you'll watch as the judge rules in favor of the landlord every single time. Right now, across America, evictions are exploding to levels higher than pre-pandemic, and in many cities they've doubled. According to Princeton's eviction lab, landlords are filing over 3,500 eviction cases per day. That's one family every 24 seconds losing their home, and that's just the ones we can count. The moment you're evicted, it's over. It's a scarlet letter. You get blacklisted. Landlords talk. Tenant screening companies share your record. Suddenly, no one will rent to you unless you cough up 3 months' rent up front, have flawless credit, or agree to live in a slumlord's roach motel. It doesn't matter if you paid rent on time for 9 years straight. One missed month, you're trash to the system. And most evictions aren't about people refusing to pay. They're about people falling a week behind. Half of Americans don't have $500 for an emergency. That's all it takes to start the spiral. A car repair, a medical bill, or your kid needing dental surgery. And here's the sick part. Wall Street has weaponized this. Hedge funds and private equity firms now own 20% of rental homes in major cities. They jack up rents 25%, squeeze out long-term tenants, and then use AI-powered software to target new evictions preemptively. They want turnover. It's more profitable. Eviction isn't a bug in the system. It's the business model. And once you're out, good luck getting back in. The average rent for a one-bedroom nationwide just hit $1,750/month. In cities like Denver, Miami, and Nashville, over $2,100. No first and last month, no keys, and the waiting list for housing assistance? Years long. America doesn't have a housing crisis. America has a housing attack on poor people, working-class people, and anyone not born into property. If you're not on a deed, you're on a clock. The gig economy is collapsing, and it's taking workers with it. Everyone wants to talk about how convenient the gig economy is, how it lets you be your own boss, and work when you want. But let me tell you the truth. The gig economy has become the largest poverty trap in modern American history, and it is collapsing right now, dragging tens of millions of workers down with it. In 2025, over 36% of the U.S. workforce is now part of the gig economy. That's Uber drivers, DoorDashers, Instacart shoppers, Amazon Flex couriers, freelance coders, TaskRabbits, Fiverr workers, and every one of them is underpaid, unprotected, and burning out. Most of them have no benefits, no sick leave, no insurance, and no retirement plan. And now, their pay is shrinking. Uber quietly rolled out pay cuts in over 20 cities. DoorDash tweaked its algorithm so tips are now hidden until after the job. Instacart workers report making less than $7/hour after expenses. You know what they're calling this now? Algorithmic wage theft. You clock in, you work 10 hours, and the app tells you you earned $93 before gas, taxes, and depreciation. After all that, you made maybe $45. And that's if you're lucky. These are the new American serfs, and the cost of surviving in this world is rising faster than they can keep up. Most gig workers are driving vehicles with 150,000+ miles. They can't afford repairs, but they also can't afford to stop working. It's a debt spiral, driving just to stay broke, and if you dare speak up, you get deactivated. One bad customer review, one false accusation, or just too many no responses, and the algorithm erases you. No appeals, no due process, no income. You're done. And here's the kicker. Almost 60% of gig workers now work multiple apps at once, because one isn't enough to survive. But even juggling Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash, most aren't breaking even after expenses. This isn't freedom. This isn't flexibility. This is modern indentured servitude, delivered by billion-dollar tech platforms that built empires on exploiting the working poor. And every day, more Americans are signing up, not because they want to, but because they have no choice. This is what poverty looks like in the digital age, dressed up as independence. But it's just digital slavery in disguise. The American dream is now a lie. told to keep you working. Let's cut the crap, because this one hurts the most. The truth is, the American dream is dead. And worse than that, it's become a weapon. A fairy tale, a myth fed to every struggling person to make them keep working, keep grinding, keep blaming themselves when the system is the one that's broken. You've heard it your whole life. If you work hard, stay out of trouble, get an education, buy a house, save for retirement, you'll be okay. You'll make it. But here's the reality in 2025. The harder you work, the poorer you get. Full-time workers are living in shelters. College grads are making $16/hour while drowning in $80,000 of student debt. Retirement? Most Americans over 50 have less than $10,000 saved. Home ownership? Mortgage rates just hit 8%. Starter homes are going for $500K in cities where the average wage is $45K. Owning a home in this country now requires a six-figure income and zero debt, and even then, you'll be outbid by a hedge fund. The dream is gone. And still, they keep telling you that if you're struggling, it's your fault. Maybe you didn't budget right. Maybe you should have picked a better major. Maybe you should start a side hustle. Maybe you're lazy. No. You're being gaslit by billionaires, politicians, and media outlets that exist to make you feel like poverty is personal when it's engineered. Every system, from healthcare to housing to employment to education, has been slowly rigged to extract more from the bottom and reward the top. And if you dare speak up, you're a radical, a whiner, a problem. But the truth is right in front of us now. The American dream isn't broken. It was never built for everyone. And now the veil is falling. Millions of Americans, good, honest, hard-working people, are realizing that the ladder they've been climbing their whole life was leaning against the wrong damn building. And there's no safety net when they fall. That's not a crisis, that's collapse, and we're living in it.